What if you've never actually made a choice? Not a single one. You think you did when you picked your job, your partner, even this video. But what if every decision you've ever made was already written before you knew it existed? Every time you say, "I decided," maybe what you really mean is, "I realized what was already going to happen." That's not science fiction. It's neuroscience, and it's philosophy. And if you follow this idea long enough, it starts to pull the ground out from under your entire sense of self. Because if you don't control your choices, who or what does? The story of free will is the story of human pride. It's what makes us feel unique, moral, responsible. Without it, everything starts to blur. Justice, ambition, guilt, even love. But let's look closer. When you decide something, say, to pick up a glass of water, what actually happens? You think you're making a conscious choice. But experiments show that your brain starts preparing that action before you even realize it. How? A fraction of a second before you choose, your neurons are already firing in patterns that reveal what you're about to do. By the time you feel the urge, the choice is already made. That means consciousness isn't the cause of your decision. It's the witness. You're watching the movie and calling it real time. Think about your day. How many of your choices are automatic? The way you check your phone when you're bored, the food you crave when you're stressed, the way you react when someone disrespects you. These are not choices. They're habits, built over years of repetition, reactions coded into you like muscle memory. You don't choose them. You are them. And those habits, they came from somewhere, from your parents, your culture, your childhood, the things that hurt you and the things that shaped you. You inherited them like hand-me-down clothes you never picked out but wear every day. So when you say, "I chose this," what you really mean is, this was chosen for me long ago by everything that came before me. There's a certain arrogance in believing we're independent minds, making fresh decisions in a vacuum. You were born into a world already in motion. Your DNA decided some of your behavior before you took your first breath. Your parents taught you what right and wrong mean before you could understand the words. By the time you were old enough to think you were thinking freely, you were already carrying a map drawn by others. And you followed it, because everyone does. Let's test something. Imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. You feel anger rise in your chest. Did you choose that feeling? Of course not. It appeared automatically, like a reflex. Now imagine you take a deep breath, calm down, and decide not to react. That feels like a choice, right? But even that calmness wasn't created out of nowhere. Maybe you've learned through years of mistakes that reacting doesn't help. Maybe you've meditated or grown older or simply gotten tired of fighting. The choice came from prior experiences, not from some pure, untouched willpower. Everything you call you is the result of what's already happened. This idea scares people because it feels like it erases responsibility. If no one truly chooses, how can anyone be blamed or praised? How can there be morality or justice? But look closer. Maybe it's not that we lose responsibility. Maybe we understand it better. When you see people as products of causes, not as free agents floating in space, anger softens into understanding. You realize that cruelty often comes from fear. That arrogance comes from insecurity. That kindness comes from someone who learned empathy the hard way. You stop dividing the world into good and evil. You start seeing it as cause and effect. And that shift, that quiet understanding, is what compassion really is. The philosopher Spinoza said this long before neuroscience ever existed. Men believe themselves free because they are conscious of their actions, but ignorant of the causes by which they are determined. He meant that consciousness gives us a false sense of authorship. We feel like we're writing the story, but we're only reading it as it unfolds. The trick is that the illusion has a purpose. If we didn't feel like we were choosing, we might stop acting altogether. The illusion of free will keeps life moving. It motivates us to build, to love, to fix, to try, even if the trying was itself inevitable. Now, here's where it gets stranger. Imagine you could rewind your entire life. Same body, same memories, same circumstances. Would you make different choices? No. You'd live the same way, make the same mistakes, love the same people, because you'd be the same person. Choice only exists if something inside you could have acted differently. But could it? Given everything that shaped you, could you have really done otherwise? That question sits like a weight in your chest once you take it seriously. It means that guilt, the kind that haunts you for years, might be misplaced. It means regret is like blaming water for flowing downhill. And maybe that's what peace actually looks like. The moment you realize you were never in charge, and that's okay. We live in a culture obsessed with control. Take charge of your life. Be the master of your fate. It sounds empowering, but it's also exhausting, because deep down, we know we can't control everything. Not our thoughts, not our emotions, not even our impulses. You can't decide to stop feeling pain. You can't decide to stop craving validation. You can't even decide what you'll think next. Try it. Sit in silence and command your mind, don't think. Within seconds, thoughts appear. You didn't call them, they just arrived. Who sent them? Nietzsche once said, "A thought comes when it wishes, not when I wish." That's the truth most people never face. Feda. You don't think thinking happens. You don't choose, choosing happens. It's terrifying at first, but also strangely freeing. Because once you stop claiming ownership over every thought, you stop identifying with them. You see them for what they are, passing weather. And in that space, a new kind of clarity appears. Not control, but awareness. Not power, but peace. Some people hear this and say, so nothing matters then? If I don't control anything, what's the point? But that's not the point. The point is to understand what you are not a puppet, not a god, but part of something vast, interconnected, and ancient. The point is to stop fighting yourself for being human. To stop pretending you're the author of every mistake and every miracle. To realize that life isn't something you're steering, it's something you're experiencing. You can't control the wave, but you can learn to surf it. Maybe that's what wisdom really is, not mastering life, but cooperating with it. Not forcing the world to bend to your will, but understanding that will itself is just another current of nature. When you start to see it that way, you notice something subtle. You still move, you still decide, you still live, but with less tension. The voice in your head isn't fighting itself anymore. It's not screaming, "Why did I do that?" or "I should have known better." Because maybe you couldn't have done better, not yet. Not with what you knew then, not with who you were at that moment. You're unfolding exactly the way you're supposed to. Maybe free will isn't about control. Maybe it's about understanding your conditioning, seeing it clearly enough to stop being ruled by it. That awareness doesn't give you total freedom, but it gives you a kind of space inside the machine. And that space might be the closest thing to real choice we'll ever have. So next time you say, "I chose this," remember what that really means. It means a million invisible causes converged to bring you to that exact second. It means the universe, in all its chaos and history, moved through you to produce one tiny action. Maybe that's not a loss of freedom. Maybe that's all. Because if you were never in control, then everything you've ever been, every thought, every mistake, every act of love, was the entire universe expressing itself through you. And that's not imprisonment. That's participation. Maybe freedom isn't about control at all. Maybe it's about seeing the truth clearly and not running from it. You don't need to believe in absolute freedom to live a meaningful life. You just need to understand how little of your behavior is truly yours and what that means for how you treat yourself and others. The problem is, most people don't want to see that. We need the illusion of choice. It gives structure to chaos, hope to randomness. Without it, the world feels like a machine, beautiful but cold. But what if that machine is not against you? What if it's simply doing what it does and you're part of it? Let's start with something simple. Every day your mind makes thousands of micro decisions: what to eat, where to look, what to say next. Most of these happen without awareness. By the time you consciously decide, your brain has already run through its scripts, checked its memories, its fears, its rewards, and handed you a ready-made feeling. I want this. That's what free will feels like, not because you control it, but because you experience the result of a process you didn't see. Consciousness, in a way, is the last person in the chain to find out what's going on. But here's the catch. Even knowing that, we still feel like we're choosing. And that feeling, that illusion, might be one of evolution's greatest inventions. Because without it, life might lose its taste. Imagine living every moment aware that everything you do was already decided by genetics, conditioning, and time. Would you still love? Would you still dream? Would you still forgive? Maybe you would, but not for the same reasons. You wouldn't love because you chose to. You'd love because love arises. You wouldn't dream because you want to. You'd dream because dreaming is part of what it means to be alive. You wouldn't forgive because it's noble. You'd forgive because deep down you realize no one could have acted differently. That's what real understanding looks like. Not cynicism, but mercy. When you truly see that no one's really steering the ship, you stop hating the passengers. Society, though, doesn't run on mercy. It runs on the illusion of choice. Courts punish you as if you could have done better. Markets reward you as if you earned everything yourself. Religion tells you you'll be judged for what you decide. Take away choice, and the system trembles. We need to believe we control ourselves, not because it's true, but because it keeps us accountable, motivated, afraid. Free will is the invisible leash that keeps society organized. But on the individual level, when you're alone, honest, quiet, you know the truth. You know that thoughts appear in your head like raindrops. You know that emotions rise and fall like tides. You know that no matter how much you plan, something larger is always moving you. We don't want to admit this because it feels like weakness. If we're not in control, then what's the point of trying? But that's just the ego panicking the part of you that needs to believe it's in charge. The ego says, I am the thinker. But look at it closely. If you're the thinker, why can't you control your thoughts? The ego says, I am the doer. Then why do actions sometimes happen before you even think? The ego is a story that consciousness tells itself, a convenient narrator that explains events after they've already happened. It takes credit for everything, even when it's just along for the ride. That's what meditation reveals. When you sit still long enough, you start to notice that thoughts happen without permission. You watch them rise and fade and realize they don't belong to anyone. This realization isn't meant to make you passive. It's meant to make you honest. Because once you stop pretending to control everything, you can finally focus on what can change your awareness. You can't control your impulses, but you can watch them clearly enough to stop being ruled by them. You can't decide which thoughts arise, but you can decide which ones you feed. Maybe that's what freedom really is, not the power to do whatever you want, but the ability to see the machinery without getting lost in it. Awareness is the only freedom we ever get. You've probably heard someone say, everything happens for a reason. Say. That's our desperate attempt to turn cause and effect into meaning. But the truth is, not everything has a reason, at least, not one that was made for you. Life unfolds according to physics, biology, chance, and time. And yet, in that chaos, we find beauty. Maybe that's the strange gift of being human. We see meaning even where there is none. We are aware of our own lack of control, and instead of despairing, we make art. We build philosophy. We fall in love. We create stories to give shape to what's shapeless. And maybe that's what makes us more than machines. Not that we control the world, but that we can witness it and find poetry in it. But let's be real, this idea still feels uncomfortable. If everything is predetermined, then why bother? Why try to change, to grow, to become better? Because even that desire to change is part of the chain. The recognition that you're trapped is itself part of what moves you forward. You don't escape the machine by fighting it. You escape it by understanding that you are it. The gears turn, and somehow you become aware of the turning. That awareness doesn't stop the machine, but it makes you conscious inside it, alive, awake, lucid. That's the quiet freedom no one talks about. Sam Harris once said that understanding the absence of free will can actually make you more compassionate. You stop seeing yourself as the author of your flaws. You stop blaming others for theirs. It doesn't make you careless, it makes you kind. Because once you realize no one chooses to be who they are, forgiveness becomes natural. You see pain as programming. You see cruelty as confusion. You see yourself, your mistakes, your regrets as outcomes of everything that shaped you. And you finally exhale. Look around you. The world is full of people pretending to be in control, hustling, grinding, performing strength. Everyone's terrified that if they stop steering, everything will collapse. But what if you could let go just a little? Not to give up, but to stop forcing, to let life breathe again. Because maybe the things meant for you don't require control, just alignment. And alignment doesn't come from willpower. It comes from awareness. You don't make the river flow. You notice where it's already going and learn to move with it. That's the art of living without illusion. So maybe free will isn't real in the way we were taught. Maybe you can't choose your next thought. Maybe everything that happens, your desires, your dreams, your mistakes, was written by causes older than you can imagine. But maybe that's okay. Because even if you don't control your story, you still get to witness it, and that's something the universe can't do without you. You are its eyes, its voice, its awareness, looking back at itself. That's not power. That's meaning. The philosopher Alan Watts once said, "You are something the whole universe is doing, in the same way that a wave is something the whole ocean is doing." Maybe that's the truest way to see it. You are not separate from life. You are life experiencing itself. You are never outside the flow. You are the flow. So stop trying to hold the water. Stop punishing yourself for where it moves. Let it carry you. Because even if you never had control, you were never lost. Maybe we don't need free will to live well. Maybe we just need awareness, humility, and compassion. The freedom to see clearly even if we can't steer. The courage to love even knowing it's not our choice. The grace to forgive even when we couldn't have done differently. That's not the end of meaning, that's the start of it. So the next time you find yourself thinking, "I should have chosen differently," remember, there was never another choice to make. But there's something far more real, this awareness right now, that sees it all happen. Maybe that's what real freedom feels like. Not control, not perfection. Just the quiet understanding that life was never something to win, only something to witness. And maybe that's enough.